one thing I find is great, says it happens both at trial site and it happens at home, say growing a new crop, say that you're not so familiar with. We all know how to grow winter wheat, winter barley, spring barley, but I suppose when there's out of the norm crops maybe where someone might be growing spring wheat for the first time and that sort of stuff, there's great sort of full publication of everything that is required to grow spring wheat. So for the likes of a farmer that might have had to make a different decision because things are tough, all the basic agronomy of them crops are on the app, which is excellent.
Work continues unabated on farms right across the country. Ultimately, decisions to plant a particular field, choose a certain variety, or apply a specific input at a given time are down to the farmer. There are risks with all of these choices, but when a farmer has access to the best available knowledge, those decisions become a little easier. You are listening to the latest episode of the Tillage Edge with me, Michael Hennessy. We would really appreciate it if you could listen, follow, and leave a review on Apple or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. In today's episode, we're diving into the Teagasc Crop Report and how it can be helpful both to you as a farmer and industry professionals when making agronomy decisions. You can find the Teagasc Crop Report at www.teagasccropreport.ie or on Apple or Android store if you just search Teagasc Crop Report. I'm joined today by Shay Phelan, a tillage specialist in Teagasc, and Denis Dunne, the trials manager with Seedtech County Waterford, who's an active user of the crop report, which he finds an invaluable tool in his day-to-day managing of crops. I first asked Denis to describe his role in Seedtech.
So I look after the trial site in Seedtech, where we basically look at new varieties coming in from breeders across Europe and we test them and we look for the best ones and then we send it forward to official trials.
I think a very familiar company to most farmers in the country. Denis, we're here to talk a little bit around the Teagasc Crop Report because I think you use it quite a bit. What motivated you to start using the crop report?
I started using it back when it was launched at the Tillage conference there a number of years ago, and back when it was on the computer, and would have used it back then, say for general research, say looking at crop agronomy and that sort of stuff. But since then, it's after evolving, onto the phone, and I use it quite a lot nowadays, for everyday farming, be it from checking labels, what weeds are susceptible to herbicides, right through to what's in fungicides, and back to then just simple agronomy tips.
Okay, the whole way through. And you mentioned you started using that on the computer. How are you mostly accessing the crop report now in your day-to-day work?
Day-to-day now, it's on the app on the phone, it just loads up straight away. All the information is there. There's no logging in or that sort of stuff.
So on a mobile phone, so as you're out and about, when you're wanting to make a decision on the ground, you whip it out and you consult it and away you go. Is that the way?
Exactly. Well, that's it. Now, look, most things will be done, in the office space, when I'm researching before I head out to do that. But at the same time, it is still quite easy access it on the phone. It's just there, a fingertip.
So as you were saying there, so you also access it on the computer as well as on the phone.
I do, yeah.
And why do you use the computer over the phone sometimes?
Just because the bigger screen and that sort of stuff. Some of the information is, when you're looking at a lot of information, it can be simpler on the laptop when you have the time and that sort of stuff. The phone, you might only get a certain section of the table, only a select number of products that can fit on the screen. But it can all be accessed from the phone, when you're in the field. But when you're maybe pre-planning, and putting together an agronomy plan, it's nice to be able to see the full screen.
No, I mean, and in terms of your access to either side, your whole login and all that kind of thing, you find that very seamless, do you?
Yeah, it's excellent now. You're continuously logged in on both, so all you do is either lock up the website or the app is just open up an app like any other app and it's there.
Thankfully, it was designed like that, so it's great to hear a user saying that it's working extremely well. Just in terms of the specific sections that you use most, what are those? Where do you tend to find yourself mostly?
I suppose it really depends on the time of the year. Like at the moment, a lot of the queries and phone calls is around, slurry and farmyard manure. People are to ask me, I've put this out, how much fertilizer do I cut back and that sort of stuff. So like for myself, who's not into cattle or livestock, I don't know what's in slurry and dung. So it's straight to the app and I find exactly the units. I multiply it by what they've applied and I can tell them straight away For myself, I use it an awful lot, say this time of the year, say the weed susceptible charts that I was saying, say if I have weeds or that sort of stuff. I use it an awful lot nowadays. Chemicals have got so complex and mixtures and co-packs. It's very easy to log into the app and see exactly what's in the packs um to help assist for rates and that sort of stuff. And then throughout the year, then like like every year, a lot of the research you're doing has been added into the app, say through the agronomy guidelines. So I'll be checking that up, say for best practice timings and that sort of stuff. And I suppose that the thing that'll be important going forward now is the monthly reports that you issue, or I think it's every 3 weeks when it gets busy, say, or even less. They're excellent. Say for like myself, I can look what is other crops around the country, what stage are they at, what diseases in them, and I can compare that to my own crops, and it kind of makes a better decision, especially nowadays. Say when you're trying to pick chemistry and that sort of stuff, it's nice to know what other crops look like compared to yours, and it can really help make decisions on what you're going to do next.
Would it be fair to say it kind of gives you confidence that what you're looking at in your fields is not terribly dissimilar to what we're reporting in the crop report around there?
Exactly. It's kind of nearly a second opinion. Kind of in the past where you'd have to make a phone call to see what everything else is happening, you kind of can get it online nowadays.
And obviously, the crop report isn't the only source of information out there in terms of what you might be accessing. But how would you rate that in comparison to everything else that you can access out there?
I suppose to be fair, it's probably one of the most up to date, say, as in that it's real time. A lot of publications and that sort of stuff can be pre-planned and written in the springtime and say give you an A or B scenario and that sort of stuff. So I find it quite relevant. It's very updated fairly often. And then I suppose a lot of the stuff we get is either through phone calls or it's through a printed version or online where you have to go search for it. Like the fact that the Teagasc app is an app and it's there, it's like checking the weather kind of a thing. It's
Yeah.
gone so easy to access nowadays.
At your fingertips. Yeah. So, from your point of view, you're obviously performing a job down in Seedtech to a fair degree. You're probably, performing a job of one of the most complicated scenarios because you have a huge amount of an array of crops that you have to try and manage and make sure there's the right inputs for all the various different crops all around the place and taking into consideration different varieties within that. But you're also farming a little bit at home in your own right as well, I think, are you?
Yeah, so the father and my uncle are farming at home, so
From that point of view, Dennis, it just taking your I suppose your work hat off and putting maybe your home farm on and putting yourself in the position of being a farmer, say, how would you or what would you say to farmers who maybe aren't utilizing the crop report today and can utilize the crop report today? What would you say to them?
like it's an excellent report as it has everything. Say one thing I find is great says it happens both the trial site and it happens at home. Say growing a new crop, say that you're not so familiar with. We all know how to grow winter wheat, winter barley, spring barley, but I suppose when there's out of the norm crops, maybe where someone might be growing spring wheat for the first time and that sort of stuff, there's great sort of full publication of everything that is required to grow spring wheat. So for the likes of a farmer that might have had to make a different decision because things are tough, all the basic agronomy of them crops are on the app, like, which is excellent.
And I suppose in that same regard, every year is a different year. This year is extremely different to last year. So we're looking at probably crops that are a bit more forward. The weather is fantastic. Might help in those kind of decisions as well in comparison to say last year where everything was really late and yeah, there was a change of agronomy needed there.
Exactly. Well, that's it. Like, it's quite important. Like, and even for simple things, like, I suppose we all know it can be quite hard dissecting leaves and that sort of stuff and plants. So, say it's quite easy to log on the app as a farmer and say, right, I know crops are coming up, the third leaf emerged. I can go out and check, and I can have more confidence in what I'm seeing in the field that I actually am getting it right.
Sure. A question I always love to ask users of whatever service Teagasc are doing, but in particular the crop report, is there anything, Dennis, missing from the crop report that you'd like to see in the crop report?
At the moment, I don't see a whole lot. Like as I said, it's excellent when we start seeing now that the crop report is out there and that sort of stuff. It's excellent seeing the research coming into it. I know last year there was a lot of, and even I've seen it this year. Say if you have a tin crop, what can be done? Like the fact that it's research fed and that we're getting the most up-to-date research being put into it, I think makes it excellent.
I'll take that to the bank all day long. So a very happy user and somebody who can't find a flaw in it. But if you do, come back to us. But listen,
I
Dennis,
will definitely like it.
thanks very much for your time. Really delighted you could share your experiences at the crop report. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks, Michael.
Shay, thanks for joining us. You were listening to Dennis there talking about the crop report, and you obviously are a big part in writing that crop report, along with Kieran Collins and myself, and Veronica Nine. So there's a good few people and the researchers, I suppose, all contributing to it. You might just maybe, because Dennis touched on a few little bits and pieces, but you might just give listeners an idea of the major sections that we have within the crop report.
Yeah, so I suppose, Michael, if you take it the way we've written it, there are a number of different sections within the app or the platform, and I suppose the one that most people are probably most familiar with are the ones that come out quite regularly, which are the updates. So that generally gives you an idea of what's the current in crops in the country at the moment. So that gives you agronomy, kind of key stage, growth stages, things like that. What's the jobs coming up for the next 3 to 4 weeks? And those updates are kind of they're periodical throughout the growing season, so we put them out there. And behind that, though, I suppose, is where the real information in the crop report are. You have basically what we start off at the basis of this is what we call reference guides. So we look at the different crops, so winter wheat, winter barley, so on and so forth. And within that, then within those reference guides, there are detailed information about different strategies and different periods of how you manage the crop, from seeding all the way to harvest. Okay, so everything from disease control, weed control, plant growth regulators, all those strategies are in there. And behind those strategies, there's links to research that Teagasc would have done.
Okay, so as the user is using it, then they come into they'll see the regular updates about every 2 or 3 weeks, give or take, depending on the time of the year. They'll see links then from there back out to this product to the reference guides. And from the reference guides, as we're reading it, there's links again to research that underpins the strategies that we're suggesting that farmers use.
Exactly that, Michael. So it's an encyclopedia, if you like, of information there, based, as you say, on research. And we bring that research, then we use that research as a foundation for all the advice that we give subsequently throughout the app or throughout the platform, and obviously then out into our agronomy services as well.
And Dennis mentioned as he was going, he was using it a bit in terms of helping to select the products that are using. There's a major section around the products as well.
Yeah, and he's right. Probably the most used part of the app or platform is the product reference table. So basically, what we do at the beginning of the year is we invite all the chemical companies or the companies in the country to send us the data about their products that they have available this year, what they're used for, what crops they can be used on, what diseases or weeds they control. So we put all these different products together in what we call product reference tables. So you'll have, say, the likes of spring cereals now, you'll have all the herbicides that are approved on spring cereals, and we can compare and contrast each of the different chemicals that are there. We generally have the tables structured in such a way that you see the active ingredient, the crops that they're approved on, the rate that you can apply them at, the timing that you apply them, and then there's generally a comment about, what these different products do. So you can compare and contrast all those products quite simply in that. We do the same for fungicides, we do the same for insecticides, all these different reference tables. So generally if we go back to what the old crop report used to be, where we'd have a book full of these tables in the car, these are all now there on your phone. So you have them on your phone or tablet or computer all in one spot. As Dennis said, like when you're in the field, you can just access some of these and you know exactly what you want to do before you hit back to the car.
And the real power of this, Shay, I think Dennis referred to it there as well, that we have all of the different trade names of the different active ingredients there. So it's quite easy to compare them within a table to kind of give people an idea that one product might have slightly more or slightly less of an active ingredient in it, and there might be a relevant price beside that as well.
Yeah, and as Dennis rightly said, some of the mixtures that are out there now can be quite confusing, whether that be herbicides or fungicides. So you can actually go in there, see what the product mix is or what that co-packs are, and see how you can use them. The other point about the product reference tables as well, Michael, is that we have ratings for different products. So in terms of fungicides, we can see what are good fungicides to control certain diseases. And likewise with the herbicides, we have tables there to show you which weeds are controlled by certain herbicides. So you can go down and go through all those herbicides and pick out a weed that you need to control. Then you can actually see which herbicides give you the best control for that type of a weed or mixture of weeds, whatever it happens to be. So it's a very handy and convenient source of that type of information. And like Dennis said, when you're trying to formulate a plan in your head in the field, you know pretty quickly what you need to do before you get the advice to the farmer, quite often before you get back to the car. So from that point of view, it's very, 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 very useful.
And the last major section is there, Shay, is around the technical reference guides.
Yeah, and again, it's another table, it's another group of tables that we have, and this is kind of, if you like, some of our foundation sort of information, Michael. So in terms of things like seed rates, nutrition, so as Dennis mentioned earlier on, about cattle slurry and dungs and types like things like that. So you have nutrition tables there as well. So you can go in there, see how much NP and K a crop needs. You can see how much NPK are in organic manures. So if you have organic manures, you can compare, you can calculate then based on what's contained in those organic manures, how much you apply, and then you can take that from the nitrogen or nutrient reference tables. You can see how much chemical fertilizer you need to apply. So those type of tables are very, very useful in that regard. Likewise, we have seed tables there as well. So we look at how much seed you need to plant for different crops and different varieties. So say the likes of winter wheat, you have all the different varieties that are there, the 1,000 grain weights that we see that are available in any given year because they change every year. So you can then calculate what your most accurate seeding rate should be based on the up-to-date 1,000 grain weight for that year.
Okay, so but on the wider go of things, Shay, there's other referenced stuff in there. There's stuff around chemicals which are not there for use. There's other things around cross compliance and how to get direct access to that. So there's loads of links that well, I suppose would it be fair to say we're trying our best to think of everything a tillage farmer or somebody in the tillage industry might need on a day-to-day basis, and they can get it all under the one hood.
Exactly that, Michael. And I think that's the beauty of this, that we try to make it as concise as we possibly can to give you the maximum amount of information in one place. And I think that's the overarching aim of what the crop report is designed to do. And as you rightly say, that's not just only the technical tables and their nutrient tables, but also, which is becoming more and more important now, is some of the legislative tables as well, in terms of what products you can use, what the limits are for different nutrients and things like that. So those legislative tables, and also we have at times, if there's some schemes there, we can have information, some of the department schemes that come up as well. So those type of things from time to time can be very, very useful as a kind of a one-stop resource for farmers,
I suppose, Shay, at this stage, we probably hopefully whetted people's appetites if they haven't looked into it already, or maybe if they had initially, they can go back into it again. And just as supposed to say, well, how do I get it? People can easily look up www.Teagasc Crop Report, all one word, and it'll come up on that. You can log into the site, as in the desktop site from that scenario, or people could just go on to their Apple or Android store and look up or search for the Teagasc Crop Report, and it'll come up as an app. And from there, we have a video Shay that's available that people can just search as well, in terms of helping people to log on to the crop report. And within our app, we have there's a 14-day free trial, so people can get it, can go in and have a look for 14 days, no obligation type scenario. But after that, I think, look, most farmers have access to the crop report if they have a Teagasc Tech contract. And generally speaking, they should have access to do that. And for industry personnel out there, it's a very simple way of just contacting. Actually, you just log into the crop report and you can contact our connected service from there in order to get access to that. So it's, from my view, Shay, I think it's relatively simple, and I think, as Dennis is saying there, not just from a farmer's point of view, but from an industry point of view, it's a phenomenally useful tool.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that, Michael, that I like about it is there is a feedback portal on it, where if somebody has an issue, and we get this from time to time from different people, if they see something on it that they think they need to find more information about, or they think might be incorrect, we're always there just waiting to see if there's anybody has any positive or negative feedback, whichever happens to be, because that sort of feedback is invaluable to us, so we can actually improve the platform, improve the information that's there on the platform. So that's something I think we would strongly encourage people to do.
Just one final question, Shane, before I let you go. So, we have listeners from Donegal to Cork and everywhere in between. Is the crop report equally as useful if I'm in very different parts of the country in terms of the strategy that's most suitable to me?
I think so, and it is, to my mind, it is, Michael, because like you say, we try and get monitor crops from all over the country, so from Donegal to Cork and everywhere in between. So from that point of view, when those monitor crops, whether it be wheat, barley, or oats, are published every 2 to 3 weeks this time of year, you can see quite quickly how crops are progressing as you come up the country, certainly from the south all the way to the north. So from that point of view, it gives you, as Denis said earlier on, a good reference as to what crops around my area are like, looking at my crop versus other crops in my area versus other crops in other parts of the country. And I think one of the key things for guys, particularly further up north, quite often we see this where there's a problem spreading throughout the country. So a disease or something like that, septoria or something like that in a crop, when you see it starting to happen in Cork, you can be alarmed or warned, or like a weather warning for crops further up the country. So it serves as a warning system for farmers and agronomists further up the country.
Jay, listen, thanks very much. I think you're doing Trojan work there. There's a huge amount of information on that. It's a mind of information, especially as Denis said earlier, where if you haven't grown a crop before or you want to tweak something in the crop that you have, there's a fantastically science-based information there, which should help all farmers. Thanks very much, Shay.
Thanks, Michael.
So that's it for this episode. My thanks to Shay and Denis for joining me on the podcast. And don't forget to look up the Teagasc Crop Report on www.teagascropreport.ie or on Apple or Android store, and just search for Teagasc Crop Report. Teagasc are running a large series of spring crop walks starting this evening in Wexford and Kildare, tomorrow in Waterford, and next week in Tipperary, Cork and Kerry. Go to teagasc.ie/events for further details on each walk. So finally, if you enjoyed the podcast, then recommend it to a friend or colleague, and as always, rate, review and follow on Apple or Spotify so you never miss an episode. And for more information, go to teagasc.ie. I'm Michael Hennessy, thanks for listening, and I'll be back next week with more tillage news and advice.